Hey guys, I am Nita from Nita's Fluid Woodworks, and today I'm going to talk to you about all things epoxy. I am going to break down what epoxy is used for what job and why you might be experiencing some adverse reactions to some of the projects that you guys are doing. So I get the question a lot, like, my project, my piece has a lot of bubbles in it. How do you get your stuff so clear? Things like that. It's actually really easy. If you use the right resin for the job, and remember, all resins are not created equally, like they're just not, then you're gonna get the results that are desired. So taking the time to analyze what the piece is that you're doing, and then what you're gonna need for that piece is gonna be the best way to get your desired outcome. So we're gonna discuss the different resins today, the different epoxy resins today. So we're gonna talk about adhesive epoxies. We're gonna talk about quick coat epoxies. We're gonna talk about tabletop resins, epoxy resins, art and countertop resins, which is typically there's tumbler resins in there, and then casting resins. So and there's also penetrating resins, which I've never used. So if I ever want to penetrate wood, I usually use a like a casting resin or something like that. So those are the epoxies that we're going to be talking about, and let's go. Okay, so all of the products that I talk about today, all of them will be linked in the description below. You have your 5-minute adhesive epoxies, and that is things like JB Weld and things like that. These are typically used to connect one thing to another and get it to stick rather fast. It's still a two-part. It is the resin and the hardener. It's an A and B, but it measures itself when you push it out. So quick coat epoxies. Personally, I use Speedy Petey. I have used Stone Coat Countertop's quick coat as well. I have a little bit of it, but it yellowed really bad. So I use it for my drusies in my geodes. I use Speedy Petey for my glitters, like if I'm doing a glitter base on a tumbler or something like that. Quick coats. It's called quick coat for a reason. The working time is minimal, but it dries within a few hours. So quick coat. Mind you, all of the resins that I use, including this one, the coupon codes and promo links, all the links to get to those products, everything will be in the description below. Okay, so starting off is Promise Epoxy. It's a great tabletop resin. They were, before Promise Epoxy, they were Incredible Solutions, and they rebranded into Promise Epoxy. All the formulas are the same. Everything is the same on them. I've already used them multiple times and done like 3-4 tables and a chessboard. So everything was the same when I used it. Okay, so the next up is Moss Epoxies. And I use the Pro. This is Tabletop Pro. The reason that I use Pro, I just got resin on my hand. The reason that I use Pro is because it has a longer open time than just the regular tabletop. And I like that longer open time. I usually do some bigger pours, and I just prefer a longer open time most of the time. Okay, so the last one is Total Boat, and I just like their resin. Thirdly, we have Tabletop Resin, and Tabletop Resin is for finishes. That is for a finish coat, a seal coat, a flood coat, something along those lines. I've used the tabletop resins on tumblers as well as a flood coat. It worked fine. I find that they have a high heat resistance, so sometimes I prefer to use those, especially when there's going to be coffee and hot stuff involved in the insulated cups. So tabletop resin is 1/8 of an inch and under. I don't do anything over that except for if I'm doing a colored layer in a pour. sometimes, like, I like to push the limits of the products that I use. With TableTop, I can do 1/4 of an inch in the bottom of a table. It's gonna have an exothermic reaction, so be ready for that, and be ready to, like, things are gonna happen, but I'll get there later on. Like, this is a series to show you and get you guys started. Okay, so this is the first video is about resin. So fourthly is Artisan Resins, and this is like art epoxies or countertop epoxies. This is when you need a longer open time, but you're not doing the casting pour. Does that make sense? So if you're doing a swipe technique or geodes or some form of art, and you need that longer open time. So I use DIY epoxy, Artisan Resin, Moss Epoxy Art Pro. I need to get some more of this. I think I have another thing in there. And Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. All of those have about a 30 to 45 minute working period. I use all of them depending on what I'm doing. So for my oceans and stuff like that, I use Moss Epoxies and Artisan Resin by DIY. I use Artisan Resin by DIY also for my tumblers as well. So lastly, we have the casting resin, and this is how I get my tables completely transparent, and there is no other way to go for me. This is not neck and neck. I've got 3 resins I use. I don't. I have 1. If you watch any videos by me, you would have priorly, I don't think that's a word, in the past, you would have seen me using Incredible Solutions, okay? Now, present day, they have rebranded into Promise Epoxy. And I have a crap ton of it, as you can see. So the way that I get my crystal clear pours, you pour from 1/4 of an inch to 2 inches thick. The biggest table that I've ever done was, thickest table that I've ever done was 3.5 inches. And I had no problems. It was crystal clear. It was beautiful. It had sea life in it, like real sea life, like the urchins and the coral and all of those things. It had that. They scuba dived, my client scuba dived all over the world, and I had no problems at all. I've been using this resin for about 3.5 years, and that's my go-to. So those are the different resins. Everything is linked down below, and there's a 10% off coupon for all of them except for one, which is the TableTop. But if you're watching the video, I've probably already contacted them, and hopefully I got a coupon coming your way for them, because I do like their product. I use it a lot, and I don't know. All right, so anyways, lastly, there was a penetrating epoxy, and I know TableTop has a penetrating epoxy. I've never used it. I don't know what's the big deal. I should probably use it on the dining table that I'm doing right now. But instead I'm gonna use a casting resin, because I'm not gonna buy another product, because I've got enough resins and I don't wanna buy another one. So penetrating epoxy, from what I know, it just goes into the wood. So a casting resin is going to do the same thing for me. It's going to be thin enough to just go into the wood. So, okay, so that's it. Those are the 6 types of epoxy resins that I use in my shop all the time. Well, 5 that I use in my shop on a daily basis. The ones that I prefer. And I've probably tried the ones that you're going to ask about, or that you think are cheaper and you might get the same results. All resins are not created equally. I have tried a total of 17 casting resins, and I've not switched brands yet. So, yeah, I think that's it. All right, you guys, so this is the first video. If you have any questions or need any information on anything, you want me to do a video explaining something, drop a comment down below. I try to keep these a little bit short, but as informative as I can be. if you ask your question, I'll be able to answer it, and it will give me a video idea so that way I can bring, because with me doing this every day, I forget what I didn't know. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to be as helpful as I can, but realistically, like, it's hard for me to remember, well, because I do it every day. So for me, it's second nature. I've done this for 5 years every day. So it's second nature to just do the things that I'm doing. And then people are like, well, wait, what's that? Hey, what did you just do? And I forget. So if you drop your comment down below, I'll be sure to get to it. And that's it. Like, share, follow, or don't. It's up to you. And I will see you guys next time.